Burkina Faso's shock move, why Traoré declared war on disorder. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. What you're about to hear is not simply a story about trash, streets, or sanitation. It is a story about power, discipline, and the rebirth of national dignity. In a world where leadership often hides behind speeches and excuses, one African leader chose a different path, a path that begins at ground level. In Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has made a decision that shocked many and inspired millions. He declared that dirty communities, careless littering, and public neglect would no longer be tolerated, not as minor offenses, not as habits, but as acts that weaken the nation itself. This is not just about cleanliness. This is about sovereignty, about responsibility, about whether a country can rebuild itself by first changing how its people treat their own land. And what followed this decision may become one of the most important social revolutions Africa has seen in decades. Burkina Faso did not arrive at this moment by accident. Long before Captain Ibrahim Traoré rose to power, the country was quietly suffocating under years of neglect, disorder, and unmanaged urban growth. Cities like Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso expanded faster than planning could keep up. Markets overflowed into streets. Sidewalks disappeared under illegal stalls. Gutters filled with waste and stagnant water, becoming breeding grounds for disease and flooding. Emergency vehicles struggled to pass. Fires in crowded markets became constant threats. Municipal cleanups came and went, but nothing changed. The dirt always returned because the system itself was broken. For decades, sanitation was treated as a minor issue, something cosmetic, something to be addressed after more important problems like security or foreign interference. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré rejected this thinking. He understood that a nation unable to organize its streets cannot organize its sovereignty. Disorder in daily life eventually becomes disorder in leadership. Neglect at ground level weakens the entire state. That belief shaped one of the most decisive social actions in Burkina Faso's recent history. The government made its position clear. Dirty communities and careless littering would no longer be tolerated, not as habits, not as small mistakes. These acts were redefined as offenses against public order and against the nation's future. Blocking roads, dumping trash into gutters, and ignoring sanitation rules became punishable actions. This was not symbolic rhetoric. It was a shift in how the state viewed responsibility. Cleanliness was no longer optional. It became a civic duty. To enforce this vision, the government created a new national initiative known as Brigade Labal. This was not a typical cleanup program designed to look good on paper. Brigade Labal was built as a disciplined civic force. Its members are young Burkinabe citizens trained in responsibility, order, and respect for public space. They are not foreign contractors or private companies. They are the children of the revolution itself. Brigade Labal operates directly inside communities. Their mission is simple but firm: restore order, protect public spaces, and change behavior. Their method follows a strict three-step process. The first step is education. Brigade members move calmly through neighborhoods, explaining sanitation rules. They show market vendors how blocked roads endanger lives. They explain how dirty gutters cause flooding and disease. They inspect structures, measure pathways, and identify hazards while working with residents to find solutions. But education alone was never enough in the past. That is why enforcement follows when people deliberately refuse to change. Brigade Labal has the authority to arrest individuals for acts of incivility against the nation. These are not empty threats. Repeat offenders face immediate fines. Importantly, this money does not disappear into corruption. It goes directly into a national cleanliness fund used to purchase garbage trucks, sanitation tools, and equipment for nationwide cleanup operations. The message was unmistakable. If you refuse to care for your environment, the nation will intervene, and you will bear the cost. Many doubted whether this approach would work. What followed surprised even strong supporters of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. More than 70,000 Burkinabe citizens answered the call. For 4 straight days, people across the country stopped their daily routines. Students, soldiers, teachers, farmers, market women, civil servants, and even government officials picked up brooms, shovels, and wheelbarrows. They cleaned streets, schools, markets, neighborhoods, and villages. Gutters blocked for decades were cleared. Trash ignored since colonial times was removed. Roads reopened, pathways reappeared. This was not forced labor. It was voluntary action on a national scale. The Ministry of Environment and Sanitation made it clear that this was only the beginning. New trash bins were installed across major cities. Hundreds of modern garbage trucks were purchased. Thousands of young men and women were given permanent sanitation jobs, complete with uniforms, salaries, and public respect. Under previous governments, sanitation work was treated as meaningless. Under Ibrahim Traoré, it became a position of dignity. Sanitation workers were no longer invisible. They became guardians of public order. The sanitation minister went further, declaring that by 2029, Burkina Faso aims to become the cleanest country in Africa. But the most powerful transformation was not physical, it was psychological. For generations, Africans were taught that chaos was normal, that order belonged elsewhere, that African cities were destined to be dirty and disorganized. This campaign shattered that belief. Across the country, people worked together with pride. Communities sang while cleaning. Children carried dustpans. Elders supervised. Soldiers and doctors joined sanitation workers side by side. Schools distributed gloves and brooms. Markets paused so traders could participate. Entire neighborhoods were reborn, not just in appearance, but in spirit. After 4 days, a powerful idea began to circulate among the people. If we can clean our country in 4 days, we can build it in 4 years. Neighborhood committees formed to prevent littering from returning. Churches and mosques committed to weekly cleanups. Market traders agreed to support permanent cleaners. With new bins and trucks in place, the system began reinforcing discipline instead of fighting against it. This was not simply sanitation. It was a lesson in sovereignty. Cleanliness became dignity. Dignity became unity. And unity became strength. Burkina Faso showed that a nation does not begin rebuilding with grand speeches or foreign approval. It begins by teaching its people to respect their own land. What happened in Burkina Faso was not about trash. It was about dignity, about teaching a nation that sovereignty begins with self-discipline. Captain Ibrahim Traoré did not wait for foreign funding or international approval. He acted, and his people responded. When a population can unite to clean its land, it can unite to defend it. When citizens learn to respect their streets, they begin to respect their future. That is why this movement matters far beyond Burkina Faso. It challenges the idea that order must come from outside. It proves that real leadership starts with responsibility at home. Burkina Faso has declared war not only on insecurity and external control, but also on disorder, decay, and neglect. What the world witnessed was a psychological awakening, a reminder that even without wealth, a nation can stand tall through discipline and unity. History is unfolding, not in palaces, but in the streets.